Hello and welcome back to Pet the Chicken. Since the last update, quite a bit has been added to the game, and I'm going to go through some new features and also sort of talk about the development process in this video. But most importantly, I want you to know that in the description of this video, there's going to be a link for an alpha for the game, which you can play for free. And so any early adopters and people who are interested in trying out the game, you can absolutely play an alpha. I think it'll only work on Windows, but there'll be a link in the description, and you can try out what I have so far, and feel free to give me any kind of feedback you like. There's a new item available to buy in the shop, the floral totem. This makes gathering a bit easier. What it does is it makes it so that, first of all, if you click it, it collects all of the items in the coop, which saves a lot of micromanagement, and also it causes the rate of flora appearing to increase. So flora is the items that just spontaneously appear in the coop, the flowers and mushrooms. So, because of the increased rate, it makes it so that getting the Amanita mushrooms is easier, and the overall likelihood of getting Amanita mushrooms is higher. And this is necessary for crafting later on, because of, well, I guess you'll see when I get to that. Another thing that you may have noticed already is the way that the chickens work has improved somewhat. So they no longer get stuck in corners, and also, so basically the more you pet a chicken, the higher its sort of level gets, and that level dictates how often it lays an egg. And it gets to be so that almost every time you click, it will lay an egg. And whereas at first it's kind of rare. Furthermore, once it gets to that sort of max level, it will make it so that the other chickens all will lay one egg, and so you get this kind of cascade effect. And so what can be kind of fun is that if a chicken stands in front of the floral totem and you spam click, the result is that all the chickens lay eggs, and they're just constantly being picked up for you. So that's kind of fun. In addition to the floral totem, there is also the sundial. It is a bit more expensive, 2,500 coins, and so it takes a bit to be able to get it, but it is worth it, because it does give you this menu that lets you control what time of day it is. And as you can see here, it kind of allows you to exploit crops, and it lets you grow food and sell a lot of crops very fast. Something you'll notice throughout this video that I didn't have last time was I gave dialogue to this little frog guy. So he will sort of make comments on whatever you buy, and it sort of just adds a bit of character, and it also gives you sort of important hints for some of the more important items as to what they actually do. Sort of a strange oversight I'm noticing while watching back this footage is that the chickens will lay eggs before they've hatched from their eggs, and so you can watch here as a bunch of eggs lay eggs. I also think that in the future I should use a different texture for the hatching chickens, maybe with a nest, so that maybe it's a little more obvious that some of the eggs are for picking up and some are for growing chickens, because I think some people assumed that the egg items that laid were going to be new chickens, and right now you can see the only thing that shows the difference between them is size, but so I think the only thing I would need to do to kind of communicate that better is to add sort of a nest part to the sprite for the egg when it's hatching. But that's fairly easy. You may notice that the garden has also been updated slightly. Particularly, there's new different types of crops, including bamboo and what was the other one? Bamboo and wheat. Currently, those have the best buy to sell cost ratio, so I've just been using those. In the future, I think I'm going to figure out systems for bonuses, and also crafting will sort of incentivize you to acquire different items. Because I think that if the most efficient items to acquire are, or rather the most profitable items stay the same, then people will just do the same thing over and over again. And so I want to come up with kind of a bonus system, and also something I've been thinking about that I might have mentioned before was a sort of stock market. And so I want there to be incentive to get different kinds of items. And then also a big part of that will be crafting, which exists in a simple form right now, but I want to have substantially more items and more incentives to craft and make different kinds of items. The last time I showed it, there really wasn't anything going on in the fishing area. You just saw the guy. But now this little fish guy has this dialogue, and has a lot of character. I like him. And I have this fishing game. It's a little buggy right now, but basically, hopefully it's clear what you're supposed to do. The icon represents the WASD or the arrow keys. You can use either. And you're just positioning the rod in different places to match the prompts, and the more accurately that you do it, the more likely that you catch the fish, and also the more likely that it's a better fish. Better fish are also harder to catch. The icon has this blinking blue to sort of indicate you where to press, but I guess my worry is that people will spam click, but I think you would eventually figure out that that's not what that means. You just sort of hold it. But basically, this was the clearest and simplest way I could indicate what to do with just a quick visual prompt. There was a couple days back in January, I think, where I had taken a break for Christmas, then I got back and I was sort of out of the swing of it, and I'm like, well, what do I do with this? And I started making a tutorial, and after working on that for a bit, I stopped myself and I'm like, no, that sucks. People don't actually want to read. And so I think what I've striven for and what I've done pretty well in this game is that everything should be communicated relatively clearly, but without you actually having to read. You just kind of open your eyes and get feedback from the way that the game works, and you should be able to see what's happening and how to use it. And I think that that's a much better way to do things than to hold the person's hand and make them read a novel, basically, to understand how to play the game, when it's such a simple game that I think if I had to make somebody read, it would be an indication of just bad implementation. So that's been my sort of philosophy for how I've been implementing these things. And because I had a few people play it, I was able to realize a few things that weren't clear, and so I've been looking into sort of working on the quality of life aspects of the game to make sure everything is clear and just satisfying without boring the player, basically. So I think I've done that pretty well. Now, after I just said that, I'm realizing that you're probably going to look at the game and realize that I do actually have the NPCs sort of tell you a bit of how to play the game, but it's fairly brief, and I tried to make their dialogue sort of amusing. You're supposed to sort of enjoy the NPCs, so it's not like, oh, this is how blah blah blah, like, master, your Wiimote is running out of batteries, like, nothing like that. In addition to chickens, there's now a second animal in the game, which is the cow. I quite like how these turned out, and you just click on them to milk them, and they can store up to 5 pails of milk. Whenever they moo, their milk level restores somewhat. They do give you raw milk, however, but you can make this better in the crafting, the craft shop, into just normal milk, which can also be used to craft dairy. After you've bought the garden and the fishing area, there is a third red key for 24,000 coins, which unlocks this crafting area with a third NPC, which is this cat gentleman here. Now, the cat does say that you hire additional people through him, but you actually do unlock them in the shop, so I might have to tweak that dialogue slightly now. I actually wrote that before it was fully implemented. You can unlock in the shop, and they're also quite expensive. They're $20,000 each. These NPCs. There is the meat witch and the mouse, which makes cheese. So, funny story about the meat witch, because it's kind of strange. But basically, something that I thought about for a long time is a dilemma that I referred to as the butcher problem. You have this game called Pet the Chicken, and it's this cute farm animal game, and it makes sense to get items. So, how do you get meat? Well, if you want to be able to craft stuff, meat makes sense as an item, but does that mean that you have to kill your animals, which are basically your pets, and it's a cutesy game called Pet the Chicken? Like, it just seemed kind of not in the spirit to kill the animals. Like, in Stardew Valley, I don't actually know how Stardew Valley handles this, because you do have various dishes, but you don't actually butcher your animals, and so I refer to that as the butcher problem. My solution is this character that I call the Meat Witch, and they basically use magic to transfigure different items into meat products. And so if you want steak, you can just use milk, and if you want chicken, you can just use an egg. And it's used in combination with the rare amanita mushrooms, which are sort of magic currency, I suppose. Towards the end of this footage, you can see how the trade system works. Basically, you combine items to make new items, and it's always more profitable to craft them together. So, however expensive those items are to sell them normally, you will get more money if you craft them. And then it's also compounded, and so if you use items to craft other items, if there's multiple layers of crafting, then you make even more money. And so here in the footage you can see that I keep making cheese, because currently cheese is one of the most expensive items. It's 990. The only things that are more expensive or more valuable to sell are the salmon and the lobster, which are in the fishing area, but they're rather rare. In the future, I want to add tackle to the fishing area so that you'll be able to use lures and things and get better and better fish. And also, well, there's quite a few crafting items in there already, but I want to make it more complicated. Like, there will be a chef, and there will be probably a miller, and I think I want to have like an alcohol brewing and distilling mechanic in the game. I think that that would be really cool. But basically, there will be all kinds of more and more items and more tasks that you can use to make more items, and they will become more valuable. And I think that, as I mentioned, like adding bonuses to particular items will really make a big difference, because then it'll keep changing and it'll keep making you uh, desire and try to farm and produce different things. And if different things are randomly valuable, then, well, you may have some need to stockpile random vegetables and things that you can farm. But, yeah. So the game is substantially more game-like than it was before, and oh, there's going to be more animals too. I'd like to add bees and sheep and pigs. But yeah, the game is coming together and it's a lot more game-like. It's already pretty fun, and I can only see it growing from here. And because a lot of the sort of general mechanics are in place, it gets easier and easier to add more content, and I'm just realizing how much the game has changed since that October video. So, it's pretty exciting, and I'm not really sure when it's going to be finished, but I think it'll be finished when it seems ready. So, yeah. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you next time in the next update.